Hi, everybody, and welcome to my album review for Captains of the Imagination When the Moon Goes Around the Sun. My name is Holden Stephan Roy, and this is the Headspace podcast, the show where we break down newish hip hop albums, track by track, giving our thoughts and opinions on every song. This album here from Captains of the Imagination, called When the Moon Goes Around the Sun, came out May 8th, 2020. It's currently May 16th as I'm recording this. Not 1,000% sure when it comes out though. And I'm gonna be going through each track on the album, giving my thoughts and opinions on every song. Before we get into that, it's self-promo time. I dropped a track May 13th that came out. It's on this channel. You can see the music video. It's on Spotify. It's on everything. I even have a new song coming June 24th, so if you like what you heard on that first one, you can check that DistroKid link and pre-save the new one. Help me grow. I really need followers on the Spotify. I'm doing my own grind thing here too. And if you support this channel and these kinds of album reviews, you can check the Patreon link, where if you want us to cover your album or you want us to cover whatever album you want, the Patreon's the best way to skip the line. It's a little more expedited than, say, relying on my goodwill to pay attention. But Captains of the Imagination over here relied on my goodwill, and that turned out to work in their favor. So who knows what happens if you do happen to reach out to me. So let's talk a little bit about why we're doing this review. And I like to start off all the album reviews like that because I've done some and people are like, why? All right, so I answer that question. I'm sitting there one day, and it's back in March, so these dudes was on point. And basically we have Dr. Cole, who reached out to me via the emails over at behindthatsuit@gmail.com and said, we's a hip-hop collective from Geneva, and we want you to cover our stuff. And I said to myself, Geneva? That's one of those places that sounds like I would really like to go one day. It might be, and this is me being a little self-serving here, real advantageous to make friends with some artisty types in another country that maybe I could go visit. So that's how I got to really desiring to do it. I was like, this seems like a good way to curry some favor. But no, I listened to a couple of the tracks. I always do before I agree to do it, because there's just certain sounds or certain vibes that when people create, I genuinely have no interest in, and it's really hard for me to fake it. So I don't touch certain stuff. But this was pretty good. So I was curious, and I said yes. And then the week that it came around, and I was super busy, and I just kind of put it off to this week. And now we're here, and I'm doing it. So I don't know much about them. But I went on their website, and I went ahead and I found this great paragraph, and I thought I would just read it to you. It says, what happens when the moon orbits the sun? Because that's the name of the album, When the Moon Goes Around the Sun. And it says 3 vocalists: Imagine, who's one of them, passionate poet; Dr. Cole, cerebral wordsmith; and Evita Kone, a neo soul diva, take you on a voyage through space and time, jam-packed with hip-hop, jazz, soul, and psychedelic rock, talented musicians, and a host of international beatmakers. This album is the opus of their career thus far. Whoever the fuck wrote that understands how to write copy that's compelling. It is so jam-packed with the right kind of music jargon that they have concisely hyped this project up. And I thought it was just really well-written copy for whatever. What does that mean? I don't really know. Honestly, when I listen to that, there's a lot of stuff happening in that paragraph of copy. But it does make it sound like they're versatile music makers of like a wide range of stuff. So it gives me the sense of dynamicism. Anyway, that's about all I have there. I talked to Dr. Cole a little bit, but like in the emails, and I hit him up on Instagram. But like other than that, like to me, this was one of those reviews where I'm effectively going in blind. I don't know fucking anything about them. I hadn't really heard their music, but they did the one thing that really matters. They sent me their lyrics, because if you want me to review your stuff, send me your lyrics, because if you're not willing to do that, it's not going to happen. It's just, I have to really, really, really want to do your shit for me to really write out your lyrics. And I'm just a tired old man now in my 30s without the young energy of my youth. Anyway, Captains of the Imagination is one of the most interesting names of a group. And this is something I just wanted to point out. Like, I'm straight Montreal up in here. I'm from North America. I grew up in this kind of, let's say, a New York way of mind. That's, I feel like there's a lot of New York-y kind of vibes, this grinding around businessy shit. So we is not like Europe a lot. And I heard Captains of the Imagination, and the first thing I thought of was Captain Planet. I don't know, popped into my head. Captain's of industry. Like, I don't know. It's like a captain is it's almost like a humble brag, right? Like, I'm powerful enough to be like a captain in charge of a certain responsibility, but I'm not arrogant enough to believe that I'm the top shit. I'm just a motherfucker with game up in here, and in this case with imagination. And I suppose when it comes to music and philosophizing and being like a leader in the art world, imagination is key. So to be a captain of imagination just makes me feel like you're a powerful philosopher artist. It's a cool group name. And then I don't normally comment on the group names, but I don't know, it just also has this 1980s goofiness to it. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but it has this cute 1980s goofiness to it that makes me like it. The album title is When the Moon Goes Around the Sun, which is an interesting idea, right? Because the moon kind of goes around the earth and the earth kind of goes around the sun. So I guess it's a way of just kind of thinking bigger. In a sense, the moon does go around the sun based on its journey around the earth, because it goes around the earth, so it does. But it's almost like what would happen if the moon effectively like lost the earth and just went around the sun, or I don't know. It's kind of what it requires, almost a leap of imagination to process the title, right? It isn't just a simple thing. You have to like think about it for a second, but it plays on such a typical idea, like when the moon goes around the earth or when the earth goes around the sun. But just by changing the order of the astral bodies, it just makes it more impossible and more fantastical in its delivery. It's fun. I really like thinking about the title a bit. I don't know if I missed the greater prophetic meaning of what it's supposed to be, but I like the impossibility of it. The cover's cool. It's goofy. It's kind of colored like almost like somebody drew it. Somebody like an actual artist created this rather than a graphic designer. I might be wrong. That might have been the work of a graphic designer, but it feels like it's an actual drawing or painting. And I like the idea that it's like a brain in a rocket ship blasting off. Like, this is about elevating your cerebral cortex. This is about giving you some food for thought in an almost literal way. So I thought that was pretty cool too. It's a nice cover. I don't think it's the greatest cover. It's definitely nice. I don't know that it's forgettable, but I also don't know that it elicits any strong, memorable emotions in me. It is extremely neutral. It is going to serve its purpose as being the cover for this in my memories, and when I look for this project, I guess I'll notice it. I feel like I'm such a hater on covers, but I don't even fucking like many. I don't even like shit. Like, I don't know. I like certain things in covers, but most album covers don't do a lot for me. That's okay. I feel like rather than verbal diarrhea, I should just run away. I love the use of music and stuff. They like sent me the full credits for everything, and I'm not really going to go through them now because while other people may care a lot about beats, I don't focus a lot on the musical side of it. But I do want to point out that there is a real attention to musicality and the instrumentation on this album. Like, it's not just great vocals, it's a great package. They put a lot of attention into making sure that the music flows really well, that the music creates a vibe that, like, it just makes sense for their voices and whatnot, and they ride the flow so well. I'm sincerely impressed, honestly, by the level of skill that comes through. So the first verse starts off with Imagine, and they rap slow. That was something I had to like get used to for a second. Like, these aren't guys who are maybe relying on the most fast trickiness, and then there's there's a girl, but I didn't feel like this was gonna be like the trickiest shit. Like, it's almost like there's a slow, calm delivery to their pace. Not like they're holding back per se, but like that everything is being said with this solemn seriousness. So every syllable has to count and oozes off like this powerfulness to it. And I thought that was interesting because it isn't my go-to style. Like, straight off the bat, if you would have like given me this project in 2017, like when I was very new at this reviewing thing, I don't think I would have felt it right away, just on the sound alone. I think I would have been a bit of like a hater almost, because it is so foreign in terms of my regular listening habits. But now as I hear it, I'm just really into the rich texture of the beat. It just kind of vibes me in. It gets me into a pensive state. I don't like to advocate drugs, but chronic might make you in a good mind frame for the kind of vibe that's going off here. By chronic, I do mean marijuana. Anyway, Imagine starts us off with some philosophical type shit. Things have changed, but you're not that different. Just bits and pieces that you brought back with you. Struggling through the cold ass winter. Life is hard, but we all have issues. Sometimes it would be easier to just run away, but if you think about it, you'll feel better when the sun awakes. And that's interesting, to me at least, because right off the jump, you're given the sense that as much as life changes and evolves, shit kind of stays the same. And as we get older, like the core of who we are remains the same, even though we evolve as different beings, and maybe we get mature or wiser or more foolish or whatever. Maybe we go through struggles and hard times, and maybe it is easier in those moments to escape. But if you kind of get through it, you'll know that when the sun comes back and the times get better, it's going to be absolutely fucking worth it again. And anyway, another way we wish we'll find before we leave. The less life we have left, the more we breathe. Don't leave it all behind when she don't show no signs. Love and happiness are two feelings that will cure your mind. And again, I get the sense of like he's moving on in life, and he's starting to appreciate shit as he gets older. And he's looking back and he's like, it's kind of weird how it's like we only get this sense of appreciation as we run out of the time. And it's like, imagine if back when we were young, we had the same sense of appreciation that we have today. I like when he goes, the world is fucked up, but it ain't nobody's fault here. Let's make it all clear. We are the cause here. And I kind of appreciate that too, because in a sense, the world is the way it is, but it's not any one person's fault. It's the systemic and it's all of us collectively that create the environment that we exist within. And that's a cool way to put it, because it puts accountability on ourselves, but shares responsibility with everyone, saying we collectively can overcome and do whatever we got to do. So if we don't stand up here, and now we're bound to fall here, what's new in stores here? Words from yours truly, looking at the earth, just tell me how can we ignore the beauty? And I like that, because you're left with the sense of him. It's almost like maybe I'm just at the place in life where you go through this kind of change, where some of the youthful rage and passionate hatred of shit fades away, and you start to notice how cool a blue jay is, or how fun a squirrel eating a peanut is. Listen, I'm going to be talking about blue jays and squirrels a lot on this channel, because they're a freaking fixture in my life as my girlfriend tries to be a Disney princess on the fucking balcony. Anyway, but if you really stop and look at how really smart and fascinating watching a blue jay crack peanuts open on a tree really is, it's like, wow, in the midst of maybe, like, I could look at it like, look at my shitty apartment, or wow, how blessed am I to be on the 3rd floor and to have such a vibrant ecosystem of nature surrounding me. I don't know, like, I'm just in that phase of life where I'm starting to learn how to let go of the anger and hatred that held me back, and embrace more of the fluidity of change. Am I still passionately not interested in a lot of dark shit? Of course. Do I still think there's a lot of shit to fight in this world? Of course. Am I a soldier in the cause? Of course. Am I blindly hating and throwing all my energy into nothing? No. I'm trying to be smarter and wiser and more intelligent and shit, and learn how to... I mean, I don't know if love and happiness are two feelings that'll cure my mind. I feel like successful accomplishment creates love and happiness, but I don't know. I am not one that's driven by these things. I try to find these things. I try to find them, but I feel like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he's right. Maybe love and happiness are two feelings that will cure my mind, but I find love and happiness can equally be drugs in the way that they cure your mind. So I guess I'm cautious of that kind of thinking. Anyway, that's just fine. The rest of it, I love the verse. And then Imagine and Dr. Cole apparently do the chorus. I don't know. They sent me the notes. I'm just working with it. When I hear Imagine's voice, Imagine has a heavier accent than Dr. Cole, so I'm able to pretty distinctly hear it. It's just, when you're doing the review after, sometimes you rely a lot more on what's in front of your face. Looking at the earth, just tell me how can we ignore the beauty? And they just asked that question, and that effectively becomes the chorus. And I mean, it's an interesting question because I remember like when I was younger, my dad was commenting on how like a teenage me couldn't just stop and look at the flowers and see the beauty in it. I just couldn't. And I mean, now I can. So I kind of appreciate now that I'm older and I guess calmer that there is beauty out there. And it's weird how even at a societal level, I don't know if it's the same thing in Sweden, but I think it's Sweden. Holy shit, am I wrong? Is it Switzerland? Fuck, I always get those two confused. Whatever the one Geneva's in, I'm so sorry. I'm probably embarrassing myself. But basically, I don't know what the political landscape is out there, but over here, it just often feels like it's a lot easier to micro focus on every negative piece of bullshit that's happening and claim that life is worse than it used to be, when if you use your imagination to imagine what life used to be like, it is just impossible to claim that life is worse than it used to be. That is just a complete historical fallacy. Life is better now than it's ever been. It just might still be kind of shitty. And in a sense, how can we ignore the beauty of progress in our world if we don't even know anything else? Anyway, that's just me running off on thoughts. Dr. Cole's verse is pretty cool. First to be last, last to be first. Real humble, biblical reference right there. Kind of, saying that. And it just kind of shows the self-awareness of, I guess, how you want to live your life. How he wants to present himself, and understanding that arrogance is not the move forward. There's no reason to add self-importance to yourself. Thirst to expand like birds from the nest, open hands and outlast closed eggs, but groping hands cause an outbreak of closed legs. That's an interesting line. I guess you can tie the thirst to the closed legs, right? Because, legs, open legs and thirstiness and shit. Birds from the nest, open hands outlast closed eggs. I don't fully get what the fuck he's saying here, to be honest. But you can get thirst to expand birds from the nest. So birds are trying to get out the nest, so they're hungry to explore the world on their own. So people have their open hands. They're just begging. They're out there trying to get there, outlast closed eggs. I guess that's chastity or something here. I don't know. Groping hands cause an outbreak of closed legs. So I guess the sleazy, aggressive nature of the universe causes people to shrivel up and go back inside. If I'm misinterpreting this, my bad, dude. Like open banks cause an overdose and hopelessness, and no man's lands cause an influx in homelessness. I thought that was a super interesting line, too. I don't like open banks. I guess it could be like if a whole bunch of liquid cash floated into the world creates an overdose and hopelessness, because if you're given everything and you're always constantly indulging, the end result of that is going to be hopelessness, because there's really nothing out there. And no man's lands, right? So I kind of took that like how when the government and shit takes land from everyone, creates an influx of homelessness. So if we don't own anything, we're ultimately all just homeless. And I don't know if that's what he meant, but that's what I took it, because no man's land would be like a war term, I guess, for where shit's going on. I don't know. Don't pretend you didn't notice this. The more a man lends, the more his friends owe him shit. I did notice that. I noticed that when you give out stuff, people don't really pay it back. They're just kind of selfish with it. That's some fucked up stuff, and that's why pretty much every rapper with some success can drop some shit like that. It just kind of works out like that. Anyway, and you can say I need an optimist lens. I'm no optometrist, but with this cause, 100%. I'm all in 2020 with nothing left. That's fair. I see what you did there. Because an optimist lens, as in I should put a lens of seeing the world more positively than the negative lens I apply to the world. Maybe I'm just a bit of a negative Nilly and they want me to see it how they do, but I can't because it's 100% my cause. He's not an optometrist, get it? Optomist lens, optometrist, they're rhyming there. Anyway, and he's all in 2020, as in all in the year 2020, but simultaneously with the optometrist 2020 vision, motherfucker, with his perspective, so his optimist lens is really related to the clarity of his 2020 vision. That was actually pretty fire. I liked it. Despite my pessimism, I'm in love with my life. And I like that because I'm a pessimistic motherfucker in the eyes of a lot of people. But I love my life because I'm really optimistic about the trajectory I'm on and the way I've been living, in spite of the fact that the universe brings some negative nilly shit all around me. Anyway, I'm with him. I don't need no rose-tinted glasses. I don't see with my eyes, but with my heart, and the heart never ignores the beauty of life, even in dark. And I really like the poetry in that. And I like how it's like, I don't need you to sugarcoat bullshit for me. Give it to me real, because my heart feels what's proper and real out there. And even if the world has a lot of fuckery in it, I still can sense all the good shit. Even if the world is dark, my heart sees the beauty. Oh, it's very nice. It's very beautiful and powerful. Then Avita Kone comes through with the last verse, and she's like, feeling weak through bleak times and showing evidence of peaks through deep likes. On the sides of my cheeks, I show sayings that I'm meek, though I once smiled. I nosedive into a blissful oblivion where there's no balance within the meridian, an elusive and ethereal comedian. I ask if hiding is a part of the healing when you're already in the deep end, and when you're already in the deep end, I'm losing sight of what to do. I mean, I feel like we're kind of getting the sense that she's doing her best to stay strong in this harder time. So we've got the world that gets painted out, and then you get the sense of her trying to smile and cling to some level of happiness, but almost in the sense that clinging to this happiness and this fakes, but it feels fake, right? Like the idea that people who are always trying to be happy are ignoring the realities of life, and that it's an implausible way of doing it, and that it's not maybe the right way to doing it. And then it kind of ends when I'm losing sight of what to do, getting tangled as I trip over my roots. I'm trying to understand that to be strong, you got to be loose too. And I feel like, I don't know, like just being constantly happy, just being constantly positive, but ignoring reality isn't actually what being strong is about. It has to be a level of open-mindedness to it. Either way, I thought it was a real cool track. I thought it was a great vibe to start off the album. I gave this song 4.5. I was like way into it right away. I was like, this is fucking cool. Anyway, there's a lot of tracks to get through, so I might not go as deep into the lyrics for the rest of it. I'll try to keep it a little more concise. I'm going to try and get all 17 tracks done in one part. So let's get on with the Era. Yeah, this beat's banging. It has like this old school hip-hoppy feel to it. You got DJ Tiny Tim on the scratches, just crushing it. It's just got this fucking fire to it. And right off the jump, yo, Dr. Cole and them do this little hype up shit. And I like how Dr. Cole starts this. He's like, break the machines like ebra. And he does like that shit where you make your voice scratch like ebra. I don't think I'm doing it good. I can sometimes do it good, but I'm not practiced right now. Anyway, so break the machines, like fuck the machines up. What do machines do when you fuck them up? They say error. That's true. Breaking your dreams like error, because yo, what does the machine do? The machine fucks up your dreams, and your dreams get fucked up. Like, I don't know, that just seems to happen to a lot of people. My dreams are still intact, but a lot of people's dreams is broken like error. And then what do hating to see through? They bring terror. So he rhymes that, better learn before you burn, better late than never ever, wage war with every page you turn. It's error. I love this shit. It's never too late to get up and fight the fight that you gotta fight. And every day of your life, in theory, should be a battle where you persevere on to the greater conquest of your mission. And every one of us has a mission where we should probably be living to the betterment and elevation of our society and community around us. So effectively, you should always live your life in the betterment and stuff. This is a great message. Yo, Dr. Cole, you a smart motherfucker. We use your drones against you. Your schools, your tools is all in a fool's errors. Your soul spent through the tip of a pencil and the dip of a stencil. It's like the end of an old era. I think the dude just attacked the archaic, antiquated fucking basic like shit, that the way people learn all the bullshit of the system. I like it. That was inarticulate of me. I'm not trying to be the most articulate right now, but I love the way he put that. I think this guy just said, fuck that. We here to throw a wrench in a broken system and come in and give you something new to think about and be. I like it. Verse 2 has Imagine in it. When is the right moment to make your best move, to keep your light glowing in the rest groove? Like lie in denial or choose to learn something. In the fire desire, who doesn't burn something? I mean, here I guess you're questioning when to do it. Maybe that's the whole point of this, is a little bit like people make the mistake of thinking they get too old and they never pursue their dreams. So they're kind of arguing the case, when is the right time? Just fucking get out there and do it. A trail of failure or a mountain of knowledge. Dude, I've made so many motherfucking mistakes on this channel. Hell, even reading the lyrics the way I do, I may look back and call that a cop-out and be like, I should have done it different. Maybe I should have made them sore. For me, it's a learning experience. I like to read these lyrics and think about what they mean and give you my little projections. I found this to be an enjoy. This is the poetic analysis I neglected to do when I started MCing years ago, so I can go and see what other people are doing, how they write it, how they put the words together. Even just saying the words myself gives me a benefit. Anyway, I really like it. I like the way he puts that. I like how he ends it with open your mind and see what hides behind the scenes. It's a thin line between you and I, but we can find some peace. And I feel like, in a sense, you kind of need to be brave with yourself. You need to look within yourself and figure out what your dreams are and go out there and get them. And I believe that what he's trying to convey there is the thin line is your decision to actually go out there and pursue your shit. Because evidently, if I'm sitting here talking about their album, we can argue that Imagine has put himself out there and gone ahead and done the things he's saying to be doing. And then I really like Evita's chorus here. It's got a real groove to it. Like, she's like, you're allowed to make mistakes, but not to hide them. And I love that, right? So you can fuck up all you want. And it's actually something I learned at work. So this is like straight up from corporate America. You can fuck up as much as you want as long as you're accountable to them. People trust me at work, even though I've fucked up entire projects. I've burned 6 months on wasted efforts and shit. But if I was own my mistakes and been able to learn from them. So when she then goes to underground ain't for fake, so don't try bluffing. You know you got what it takes when failure's not an option. Ride with precaution. So effectively, if you know you have to do this, you can't fail. You have to keep grinding, and you're just gonna put your all into it, and you're gonna focus, and you're gonna be real with yourself. Cause yo, if you fuck up and you hide it, and you lose your integrity. And if you lose your integrity, what's up? Like, here's the thing: motherfuckers might straight up pay me to do a review. Motherfuckers might do a lot of shit, but if I go out there and, let's say, misrepresent some shit, let's say somebody pays me, and then I get caught that one time, okay, fine. Then if I go and act shady when I get caught, that's wrong. If I go, look, I made a mistake, I'm never going to do it again, and I proceed to not do it again, I could restore my integrity to the point where people trust me. If I act like a fucking asshole about it, then, then none of y'all are going to trust me. I mean, I would love it if somebody wants to pay me to do reviews, but we're not there yet. I get it. We're 2,200 subscribers is fucking nothing. I understand. But I love the way she sings that chorus. It's really beautiful to me. Imagine starts off the next verse. Are you yin or yang? Why'd you stay in the ranks? Who's gonna fill in the blanks with no more bills to spend? Watch them all kill the lens. How can they still pretend they made the shit commence? Who's gonna make it end? So I guess it's questioning, like, with the status quo. Look at all the actual damage. I'm going to assume to a degree we're talking about literal environmental damage for the sake of dollars and shit. We've created this cycle. Who breaks it? When are we going to make the choices to be different? And that kind of shit. I really like, though, when Dr. Cole follows that up with, when perfection is impossible and error is unavoidable, the lesson you've got to learn is to know your limits, and the choice is to let go and take the risk or let it roll with reposition. And then effectively rolls through and says, basically, you got to learn from your mistakes and take risks and adapt and kind of keep pushing out and get past the original gimmicks, shoot bigger than what's existed, come through with real message, real lyrics, and then you can make business with chillers whose names will remain and effectively create yourself a bit of a legacy through integrity rather than being a cheap trick artist. And then, so another little verse from Imagine, which is fine. I'm not going to go, it's fine. I don't want to just be too repetitive. It's good. Basically, I like when he says, stop looking for perfection. It doesn't exist. And then we're getting real drilled into the idea that you have to actually just put yourself out there and roll with it. And I really like this song because a lot of artists I know, really talented artists, refuse to put their work out there out of a fear of success or a fear of the consequences. Or, like, I have a friend who makes comics, and I'm telling him, dude, like, just fucking start doing it on Twitch. Just fucking start publishing as you're doing it, what you're sending to me on the internet right now. People will appreciate your fuck ups. People will appreciate you getting better over time. If you wait till you're perfect and then start, it's like you're shooting yourself in the foot. Ride with precaution. That's a smart choice. Don't just be an idiot about how you put shit out there. But at the same time, we're in an era where making mistakes is fucking human. You're supposed to. There's such a desire for perfection in this world. Look at pop music. It's so fucking perfect. Like, look at modern rock mixing where, like, your fucking drums get copied and pasted and everything's just so cookie cutter and blah. I don't know, man. Maybe I just like the imperfections. I like it when you can hear the sound right before somebody spits a bar. Like, when it's too fucking perfect, it just doesn't feel human to me. I don't know. So I love this track. Oh, and the fucking groove. I don't know if I really described how much I love the groove on this track. The beat, the way it fucking feels. It's real good. Anyway, next track's called Stop, Look, Listen. I really like their flows. I don't know how to really describe it. I feel like they really understand the pocket, how to like take a rhyme and a line, coming it back into time and keeping it up. I mean, they have these little spaces between them and shit. And like, I know, like, it's just really, you know what I've noticed about Europe in general? It feels like Europe is like, when I listen to this album, like, we have a show called The Classic Quest on this channel. That's not this show, but basically that show is we go through all the classic albums throughout hip-hop, try to keep it, you know, old school, new, whatever people think are classics, and we listen to them. And the goal is to study the classic albums and to understand what makes classic hip-hop beautiful. Why are these things timeless? Why are they loved 20, 30 years later? And while I was listening to this project, I remember looking at my girlfriend and being like, you know what? It really feels like these Captains of the Imagination squad have gone on their own, like, classic quest. Like, they've gone on their own journey into, like, the root of hip-hop, and these MCs just understand fundamentally what made great flow, what made it. Like, they have gone and listened to the same source material, and they're not just relying on modern trends and pop, whatever. So I just wanted to point that out because I don't think I'm going to give enough credit to their flow throughout the album review, and that's fine. I'm doing my thing. But I just wanted to point that out. Everything from the way their music flows, all of it. Like, it's really well put together, so big respect. This one starts off with Evita, and I love the way she just does this singing. It's like, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and one man's stress is another man's pleasure. Who am I to say which one of these men is lesser? We pretend they crack the codes, but really we're all just guessers. I half agree with the idea of what's going on here. I think in some cases you're correct. Like, is red better than blue? I mean, it's hard to say which color is better than which color, but is living for oneself better than living for one's community? I think we can philosophically debate which one of these things, but I guess that's the point, is we can't know for certain, so we're all just guessing. Who's to say who's right? I don't know. I think it's a potentially dangerous line of thinking, because that line of thinking does allow for the evils of the world to win, and we need to acknowledge that there are kind of evils. So therefore somebody has to be right. There is a right. However, if we're looking at it from the point of envy, the point of materialism, so when she then goes to someone else's greenery is always greener than in reality, have you ever looked up at the scenery? I guess if we take it from the perspective of how people live and what they actually, like, the lusting after other people's lives point of view, which now in context, okay, fine. I guess where she's coming from at that point, it's just understand that, like, you shouldn't just be out there craving what other people's have, you know? And you can say, I like just how she ends it a little bit, like, you can save yourself a little grief, no worries, comparison is only joy's thief. So effectively, like, be careful, right? Because if you don't want to consistently be stressed and depressed and all that bullshit, don't just spend your time looking at what other people have. Don't just spend your time focused on what another man's treasure is, you know? And then I really like that. I really like the idea of what she's conveying in terms of, I guess, leading to appreciation for what you have, because the stress and the worry about other people living better or living worse isn't necessarily worth it. And then I like the chorus where, like, you stop, you look, you listen. What's missing? It's not so bad. Don't be mad. It's time for a new beginning. So I feel like when you actually take the time to look around and you ask yourself what's really missing from our lives, a lot of the times it's not really a lot of shit. Now, for a while, I've made excuses for tools. So there's actually a whole thing called the toolbox paradox, where we stop ourselves from starting projects or moving forward in life because we're effectively missing certain tools to build out the reality, when in a lot of cases it's not true. Like before I had this studio, I was able to make music. Like I was able to start, I was able to create the demos, I was able to create the lower quality stuff. Like there's always a way to go ahead and build something if you really want to, I suppose, is a way to look at it. And if you can change your perspective and not be angry at what you're lacking, you can see the new beginnings that you can create for yourself. Anyway, don't know which side of the coin will find me enjoyment. This is Imagine, because I'm at the point, need to let it out so I can finally be joyful. If my mind is open, I will so blindly be focused. Ask Mother Earth that she could write me a poem. I guess this is in your indecision and uncertainty of how to cope through the emotional states. If you're willing to open your mind and let the earth and the spiritual forces of life guide you, you'll get the answers that you are seeking out there. Is kind of what I took from that. A life to be told here, the liveliest moments in a world of chaos, we be fighting the omens. That's cool, man. Just poem, moments, omens. Like, these are good rhymes. Uniting our forces, we be lighting the torches. Our goal is simple, to use the words we have until the rhyming is over. So I feel like as they put out their message into the world, or their questions into the world, what's come back to them is to use the essence of their souls and their words and their poetry to be a fighting force until shit's better. I don't know, I like it. I like the idea of, it's almost like the earth responded back, be a warrior. And I'm like, that's cool. I respect that a lot. Dr. Cole does the third verse. Hate is a hot coal, so don't hold a grudge. Your plate is revenge is cold and probably infected with buns. Is it not so? You're seeking a perfect chill, warm sun and a breeze, calm trees, and a still sea over efforts hill. But you gotta build up skill and you gotta work on being humble, etc., etc. The same kind of shit as we've got in the other two verses. And basically, instead of harboring the hatred in your heart, you basically go out there and seek the serenity and build yourself up. And I kind of like how in the first 3 tracks of this project, we've been given a consistent sense of messaging where internalized, look within yourself, find that appreciation of the world around you, make some mistakes, grow. It's like, in a sense, this is a bit of a self-help book and a rap album, so that's pretty cool. Sonically, I liked it a little bit less, and this is not to say skill. This is more of my like when I actually sat and said, would I ever really throw this on based on my preferences? A little less so than the first 2. But I want to just say with my grade being 4.35 instead of 4.5, it doesn't mean that any of these songs is better than the other one. I think this album has an extremely consistent quality in terms of production and skill across the tracks, and so my grades are more a reflection of preferences. Well written, well produced, real well done. I enjoy listening to that a lot. So I guess that's enough of that. We had DJ Tiny Tim back. He's barely scratching up the whole album. It's real nice. So anyway, sometimes it's nice to look at somebody new and go, what's up? Alright, so this, I guess, is that neo-soul side of the album coming through. It feels like that R&B kind of stuff that I would never listen to. I'll be completely honest with y'all. You'll notice a complete lack of rhythm and blues on this channel unless it's some super hip-hop shit, because it's not really my cup of tea. Hearing the soulful sounds of a beautiful lady serenading me with power, and she has power in her voice and she sounds so beautiful. It was just, I just never listened to this stuff, and it's not like something I would ever go to, but objectively it was beautiful to listen to. The bass line is my absolute favorite part of this track. The rhythm on the bass line is real nice. It is so fucking fun. That was my favorite part. She sounds wonderful. Like, she brings vision to the blind and make them mean-spirited kind. And if you try a little tenderness when your heart is so calloused, I'll give you what you need, I'll give you what you want. I plant a seed and I watch her grow. Sing a little serenade and we can lie in the shade and say, what's up? I'm so happy to be spending time with you, what's up? And I like that because I feel like she's saying, look, man, I represent the happiness and the joyfulness of shit. And if you're willing to, even though your heart's so calloused and broken, you've been through the shits of life, if you're willing to kind of sit here with me and let me, my voice, light your soul and harmonize, I can kind of get up with you and bring you into a vibe where it's just like, what's up? And I feel like simultaneously it's like she's a beautiful woman and you're supposed to fall in love with her, but at the same time it's like her message and the more metaphysical tones of what she represents coming to your soul would elevate you to more of that peaceful living that they've been kind of promoting throughout this project so far. And I like that. And it's got this nice, like, can you lay in the shade with me? What's up? It's beautiful. She sings it real nicely. Then the chorus comes. and it's fine. Summer's almost up, and I don't want to rush into nothing. You leave my soul humming, my special something, because summer's almost up, and I don't know, it's real lovey. It just kind of seems like this nice, slowy, like I just met you, and I want to spend time with you, and I want to have beautiful moments. And again, like, I don't mean to sound so unenthusiastic. It's just, it's really well-made stuff I would not ever put on myself. But just to throw it out there, let's say I was single and I was trying to get a little groove on with a lady and, try and throw something a little more smooth and get her all close to me for dancing. Now we're in a different vibe, and I might actually think back to this track and throw it on for that purpose, to show off my sensitive soul, in the same way that I feel like Imagine and Dr. Cole are doing exactly that with their verses, their sensitive soul. Like, especially when Imagine goes, "What's up, girl? It's been a minute. Let's hold this feeling until it's finished." I'm like, oof, sweet talker over here. And I just really enjoyed it. It's like the token rap verse on the R&B song. It comes off like that, but in a corny dad joke way. I really enjoyed it. Let's dedication, eulogy, just meditating. You and me, I left you waiting at the funeral of our memories. And I'm like, wow. So he's just like spitting, like thinking back on a relationship with this girl or whatever, and just the idea of this track being a eulogy to the memory of you. And like, it's such a dark but beautiful thing all at once. Anyway, I just liked it. We'll never know what happens. We might never lead this magic. Things could go wrong if we plan too much, and this is just the way to thank you, love. So I don't know. I guess he's caught up in the moment with her, and he's just appreciating it. And then Dr. Cole's, "I was blind, and now I see. Because I finally closed my eyes, my mind is free and accepted the darkness. That's when the light begins. It's inside of me. I used to be blind by reflections and looking too hard for perfection. I was afraid of the loneliness, but now I feel okay. There was only us, yeah." I feel like his is more, so I feel like Imagine's taking on the more romantic love tone responding, and Dr. Cole's taking on that more the light of your soul perspective. And I guess that's kind of cool. Both of them are fun to listen to. I really like the track in that regard. I gave it a 4.35. I think it's well made. Again, just not something I would listen to, but I could see how a bunch of y'all, based on like the comments I've gotten through the channel listening to this, y'all might feel it more than I did. That's why I gave it the grade, because objectively it's pretty fucking strong. All right, so what they did for skits on this project, I'm calling them skits. They called them poems. I'm calling them skits. Is they added poems. So let's talk about the first on the poems on this project, Original Shape Poem. So this is more or less a cappella, but there's a bit of a, I'm going to call it a delayed whispery effect. It feels like what he's being said is being whispered after, but in a little bit of a delay on it. It feels very hip-hop, very old school, like we standing on a block, busting a freestyle out the dome, you know what's up, yo. Anyway, so he's like, "I speak rhizomes and freestyle poems that leave my dome to meet my opponent with greetings and my eyes open. A wise omen to those who try roaming too close to the wide open, but chose to confine others to lines closed." Like that kind of spoken wordy, really playing down on the syllable delivery, because he uses his sound there to create the drum cadence sound, almost to kind of keep you rhythmically invested as a person who's a listener, because when doing this kind of more spoken word thing, you are also effectively the beat, right? You are everything here. And I don't know, I feel like he's using this little poem to represent himself, to kind of put out here, I represent that truth, I come through. I mean, I'm going to say that it is really consistent messaging on this album. I don't know that there's a whole bunch of different shit, and so I guess when we get to it, we'll point it out, because we are going through it track by track. But here, we're still in that same point. I feel his authenticity. There are some great lines, though, like, "We tie a rope to our dreams, dying of sad thoughts. Defeatist, I am not the fetus of mad love. Is born from a worn-torn, tone-deaf sound of a bomb dropped in a sworn oath to a never abandoned hope. Rolling rock like a band on road, ever stoned without a gram of coke." And I really like that. And then "we demand our cut of grandma's rolls." So we cut, coke, those two words go together. But what I really like about this is, you're looking at people in life as they struggle, and so he effectively attaches himself to his dreams. And in a lot of people, this might be that have a defeatist attitude and not actually indulge it, but he's not that. He's instead effectively a soldier going through and navigating the waters of life, whilst not giving up, whilst staying focused, whilst not indulging into the bad habits, whilst representing the essence and force of what other people need, even chemicals, to produce through this essence of who he is. And then he fucking drops it all through. I like how he ends it. We are the children of fate. We never plan on change. We now adapt and return back to our original shape. It's called hip-hop. And so it almost ends like this call to form, like, yo, check it. We are going back to the essence of hip-hop and what it's meant to be. That's the mission statement of who we are up in here. So I'll be honest with you. I like the poem. I don't like the poem on this album. I'm not a fan of the poem skit thing. And why? It's the lack of beat. So had he put a little beat under there, I would have felt it more. I really would have. With a banging beat under this, it's a 5 on 5 for how good the rhymes is. So I feel like I'm not giving the credit to the vocal work that it deserves, but the sonic experience as an a cappella poem in the midst of these musical experiences did not give me the greatest experience. That's me. It doesn't mean I'm right. This is their art project, and they had their vision, and I respect what they did with it, because it also wasn't some stupid ass shit. It's a really good poem stuck into the middle of this. I just would have rather it had been a fucking verse with a banging beat under it. Like, I could picture what I want from it, but instead it's just this poem. I'm not hating though. I like it. 4.25, because unfortunately I do want that beat, and it is what it is, but it makes me respect Dr. Cole as like an old school enthusiast, because I feel like he's right there on like a New York corner ready to fucking rip into anybody, and that's real dope in my opinion. Anyway, we are who we are. I like this one. I feel like this one is more modern sounding in the flow, and I kind of like that because I have to get into credit here. 6 tracks in, 6 very unique experiences in terms of the sound, and so that creates a soundscape where you're gambling. And in that gamble, maybe I'm not going to love every single track, but it makes me like your 17-track project a fuck ton more. So good choice is what I'm trying to say. Dr. Cole starts us off, man, and I just like the way he flows it. Like middle class like John Lennon, which is fun, man, because working class hero is what I think of, and that song's always inspired me for a while now. But that's cool. People party like Vlad Lenin, and I'm like, that's an interesting line, because people party, Vlad Lenin, isn't Vlad Lenin like the fucking political one, like the socialist dude there? Media savvy like Dom Lemon, who's one of those media dudes. I don't really know him, but I recognize the name. Tragic comedy like Jack Lemmon. I had to Google him. I had no fucking idea who that is. Astrophysics like Tyson, which I believe we're talking about Neil deGrasse Tyson or whatever, who, if you watched his interview with Joe Rogan, I actually now sit there and I flip my phone around because he doesn't use a phone case, and I'm not brave enough to not use a phone case because I still drop it, but I watched him do that, and then I sat there and did this for a really fucking long time. Anyway, then Knuckles itching like Tyson. That's the Mike Tyson. And can we just say it? Mike Tyson Mysteries is awesome. And if you don't watch Mike Tyson Mysteries, you should just go watch it. I like how he starts it. He's just pulling up references and shit. It's cool. I feel like it's mostly the flow. I like the middle class, like John Lennon. People party like Vlad Lennon. Media savvy like Don Lemon. Like that kind of like there's a bang to it. Like I'm almost waiting for the to like pop through, and the way he delivers it is real nice. I like when he goes, lays a gamble, throw dice in. Out of snake's eyes, I can make that ice out the venom. At the same time, can't complain, I'm quite the gentleman, born with privileges, torn from within, missed opportunities I'd been given, scorned the influence, then jump back in. I'm a warrior for peace, a doctor for the sickness. Done just enough school to know it's all big business. I got just enough cool to choose to be a musician. Broke just enough rules to know rules can't make up for wisdom. So that's interesting, right? Because as he's got this different set of influences and I guess comparative points he's making about himself, he flips it into a little bit more of how that interprets into his life. So life's full of dark shit, but at the end of the day, he has to recognize that in himself, you know, he can't complain. And I like how he considers himself a gentleman. Like his aspirational point is to be a decent person, which is something you see a lot more of in Europe than you see in American pop culture. I like that he recognizes his privilege. I know my privilege. I'm a fucking white dude. I'm a Jewish white dude in North America. I got fucking privilege. And then, you know, that does tear you from within a little bit. I kind of feel like that does create a bit of a conflict. I like that he's, you know, missed some chances. He gets back into it. He understands that school effectively is big business. I'm personally a university dropout. I didn't go through that shit. I'm doing just fine. I don't know if I'm got cool in me, but I'm certainly got a musician swag to it. And I like the fact that he recognizes that you can't fake wisdom. There's wisdom and then a ruse being a trick or something. Like, it's not the right way to get around. You can't cut corners and shit. So that was real cool. Then I beat it as the second verse. I'm the black light, help you find a silver lining, shining like a backlight. Sit down and get your facts right, but act right, because I'm past wise. I prophesize, don't listen. It might pass you by. Karma circumvents just like a satellite. Same kind of shit. She flows through. I feel like she does it well. I feel like it's super enjoyable to listen to. And I like it. I feel like she does the same kind of shit. You feel the wisdom in her words. You feel the energy as she's coming through. And I feel like she, again, wants to let her light shine into the world. She has a similar flow to his, but it just works nice. And it just kind of feels smooth. I don't really have a lot more to say about her verse. I just thought it was real enjoyable, lyrically on point. And I like that track after track, you're getting this, I live right, you can live right too. Let's all live right together. And that's a really interesting philosophical take for a project, right? Like, how many people are putting that out there? I'm trying to I'm trying to put that out there personally from a messaging, branding point of view. So for me to hear this track after track, I kind of like it. It's like a drug dealer anthem, like those, like a Griselda Records. It's constantly like crack dealing bangers, but except in this case, it's like live right philosophers. So yeah, let's do it. Live right philosophy. Anyway, moving along, Imagine does the third verse. We got a lot of things to say, but we're not sure we'll be okay. Now let us ride a different wave so we can finally be awake. Start from scratch, mind a fire. Here's the match, light it up, cross the path. We're on a universal quest, and you can be our guest here, open the doors, etc. Basically, it's the same kind of stuff. I don't mean to diminish the message of it, but I like the twist of it. We're here. We're going to put our message into the world. We're not certain if it's going to work or whatever, but what's up? We got the match. We're lighting up the world, and you can join us or not. You know, we let life teach things we didn't know before. Like, look at that. Just saying, you know what? We're humble enough to know that we're not masters of the universe. I like it. I don't have a lot more to say. I feel like on this track I'm running out of steam, as we call it. I thought it was smooth, and I gave it a 4.35 on 5. So let's move on to the next poem on this album, Que Brilla. Alright, so this is a Spanish poem called Que Brilla, and that means that it's shining or something like that. It's fine. It sounds like a kid speaking this poem. This one does have a little bit of a something behind it in terms of a instrument, which is nice, a violin or something. It translates to, and this is according to Google Translate, the moon is the mother of the night, the sun is the father of the day. It shines out beautiful, in good shape from space in the galaxy. That the sun shines brighter than the moon shines at night, the sun shines by day to help me at night, because if not at night, nothing is seen, nothing, there must be a little light. So the moon exists to add some light to the dark. I guess that's interesting. I don't know. It didn't really make me feel a lot. It kind of sounded nice to listen to, but you already heard how I felt about these poems. This one felt more like a lot of those hip-hop skits where there's something being said, but like, I don't speak Spanish that well. I understand un poquito español, but like, it was just there. I listened to it. I read the words in English. I thought about it. It's a nice little imagery of, I guess, the moon, its value, having some light in the world. And I guess that's how they look at themselves, being just like the light of the moon, something to fight the darkness that's going out there. And I really like the metaphor and the imagery that they put themselves. So it makes me go back to the title, When the Moon Goes Around the Sun. And it's like, when the moon, this small light force, goes around the giant radiating light force, what is it? You know, like, how do you compete with that almost? I thought it was nice, but that's okay. A lot of the songs on this album are kind of short, so it made me a little less afraid of the track list to try to get it done in one review. And it's not like I'm going to be rushing through a lot of them, but let's say we've covered most of the long songs. There are a couple left, but a lot of, like the next one as an example, is only 2 minutes. So why don't we move on to that one then? And because maybe you're listening to me talk and you're feeling like we're just not the same planet. I would argue that this is a standout track on this project, as in one of my absolute favorites. Just the way the beat bounces through to Imagine on the first verse sounds so swagged out. He just sounds so fucking smooth. I love it a lot. Not to say that the other ones don't sound smooth, but I like this track a lot. This might be one of my favorites. I like how the beat just has like this old school head boppy kind of, you just vibe to it. Like you can't help but move a little bit when you hear this track. I would say they're a lot more on the pensive side than shake your booty side, which is super cool. In my life, I'm a little more on the shake my booty side of music than I am on the pensive side, but I could see how, let's say I'm sitting there on a long drive and I'm not feeling energetic, or I'm just not feeling energetic. This is a good soundtrack for that, when I need to just kind of sit and chill and let the world resonate into me. So they definitely capture that vibe of life really well. Let my mind imagine starts us off. Let my mind travel through the heart of the night. Take a pen, I'm on board. Let the darkness bring light. Nightly on the grind, dreams are hard to find. Music in my soul, keep my stars aligned. Wish luck to the homeless sleeping on bank steps. Thinking I have choices that others can't get. Yet I keep rolling. Police drive by, my time is stolen. Keep watching in a town full of clops. Sleep walking until the sound just drops. So that's interesting, right? It feels like he's cruising through his life. He's going on his grind. He's trying to get to his dreams. He's trying to accomplish his goals. Trying to keep his, I guess, soul in like aligned with the mission statement they've set out to do. Not to give into the corruption, not to sell out, I suppose. But then it's like almost like by the end of the verse, he's starting to think about those less fortunate, and he's almost appreciating, I guess, kind of what he can have that others can't, and he keeps going. His time is disappearing. I don't know if the police caused this in some way. Just seeing the police makes him think of stolen time, or maybe they harass him in some way. I don't really know if that's a huge issue by him. Keep watching in a town of clocks, sleepwalking. That's an interesting line. Everyone's watching the time, but nobody's really moving or living or anything. Very fascinating. I don't know. And then it has a nice, cool little chorus, drive around like a fancy clown. Not the same planet, same part of town. It just repeats that a bunch. Like, you almost feel like as you're going through your life living, maybe you're a little bit of a clown. Maybe you feel a little silly, but maybe it's like you feel silly in this fancy town being such a humble person. Maybe the materialism and fake shit around is what really impacted this. I don't know. Then Dr. Cole does the second verse. Riding shotgun as your soul, as your ghost drives the city streets, rhyming at the top of our lungs while the city sleeps. You roll a one-arm backside spliff, others hand on the wheel like a one-man army kid. The jet dole it up, eerie like your beat list. I let go and lean back, taking the seat lift. Overhaul, I just kind of feel like they're cruising around, smoking some pot, enjoying the philosophy of life, being themselves, being unapologetically themselves, and almost in their joys to cruise around to the good music, dodging cops because they're speeding, just philosophizing, enjoying life, enjoying what they're going on. It's just, what up? This is just another day in Geneva. This is how we cruise. We're just being ourselves in a city that maybe doesn't accept them as much. Like, again, I don't know a lot about hip-hop in Geneva. It's never something I thought about before I really thought about this album at all. Anyway, I thought this one, like I said, was a standout. There's still a bunch more tracks on the album, so I might go a little bit quicker for the rest of the review. It's not that any of these songs don't deserve attention, but I am bad at time management on my reviews. So I gave this a 4.5, truly stellar. Anyway, let's move on to the next track, Now You Know. I really, really like the chorus of this song. So it has another like kind of old school feel to it. There is actually a fucking clarinet solo by Clément Monnier in this, and it's really nice and breaks up the track in lieu of like a typical chorus. But I guess the chorus, is there. Sorry, it serves the role of a bridge. That's what I meant to say. So the chorus starts off with, "Don't act like you know if you don't. Don't act like you know. Don't act like you know. Don't know if you know. Don't act like you know if you don't." It's basically, don't act like you know if you don't know it, and whatever. You guys get the point. Don't falsely misrepresent yourself. Understand what you know. Don't play it up in a way that's bad. And I just felt like it was pretty strong. I don't know why I'm struggling so much to say it, but like, don't act like you don't know if you know. So if you don't know some shit, like, if you don't pretend to be ignorant if you're not, so don't pretend to be stupider than you are. Don't play dumb. And then don't act like you know if you don't. So don't pretend like you know some shit if you don't. Be self-aware. Be wise with how you approach your shit. Don't be a fucking moron, I guess. Don't be fake with it. Just be humble. Be a real person with this shit. Dr. Cole said some interesting shit as far as like the stuff on this album. The way he starts it off, Socrates said that he knew nothing, but I'll even question that as I wrap my assumptions. So that's an interesting point because Socrates, the Socratic method is a lot about questioning shit. So effectively, just the idea of questioning it is Socratic in and of itself. So he's wrapping his assumptions because everything we say is an assumption. We don't really know shit. So indeed, so few certainties. I'm even uncertain of my own uncertainty, which I like because it almost sounds like he's so uncertain he works himself into being certain. So if you're uncertain of your uncertainty, you therefore have to be certain. Because you kind of like you doubt your doubt, it creates almost a sense of confidence. And Lord knows I'm no Socrates, and when we say Lord knows, we're admitting that we don't, and instead of giving up, we trust in something beyond us, then our insecurity still our hope. And I like that because it's like acknowledging that there's a higher force or a presence watching over us or something. We put our trust into that, and through that, we can make it through the insecurity of not knowing shit. And overall, I thought that was like really profound. I was like, that's some pretty deep thoughts. That's like, well, it made me think at least. I certainly, I don't like the idea personally of assuming I don't know shit. But fundamentally, if we want to go down the line of thinking, a lot of what I am saying is simply what I believe, which is really just my assumptions, and I will present them with all certainty. But the fact of the matter is, if you can prove me wrong, I'm willing to change my mind. So I guess I'm just kind of in the same vein of what he's presenting here. We trust in something beyond us. We're living in a system wired by a mechanistic scientism on the basis of acquiring materialistic tokens and creating hierarchies, validating our outlook on light waves and particles, but I reject it. So I feel like what he's saying is here, we have such a reliance on science and numbers and metrics that we end up creating these artificial vanity ways of measuring our worth against each other, money, wealth, points, YouTube views, etc., etc. And so fundamentally, we let this science govern everything, and fuck that, he rejects it. So again, I thought that was so interesting. There may be so much more to this world, and we can't detect it, decolonize and harmonize the dialect, fighting for open-mindedness, finding my life's lessons until death, and what then lies waiting. So he's just trying to find a way to be open-minded with it, and I guess questioning what happens after death is pretty proper. Imagine as the next verse, from a superficial handshake to a rush goodbye that can't wait. If we've known each other forever, then why do we choose to look the other way? Why do we care so much what others say? And while we can't do nothing about this, it is only ourselves we're doubting. Look at us. So I guess it's an interesting point about the superficiality of our relationships, knowing how life is. Like, why can't we just be real with each other? Why can't we just be honest with each other? Why can't we just approach this shit in a more sincere way? I like the questioning tone of it. Like, we're left without knowing this shit. We're left with kind of masking our truth and creating almost a divide between us. And I really like what he does with this verse. I really like what he puts up into that tone. And if you think about the rest of this album with its messaging being like, be strong, be within yourself, be a little self-aware, be willing to make mistakes and stuff. Another end of it is like how we treat each other and how we deal with each other and how honest we are with each other. So I feel like it's a really good sense of verses we're getting. Then Evita comes through, got nothing to prove to nobody. We're all part of a ruse. We're just probably going through so many costumes. Nobody's here living. Like, we all know the rules. It's all a drawing, but I don't have it all sketched out. No dress, but the task is to take the mask off. Come on and air it out. So you have an idea of her like recognizing the charade of how we all interact with each other, this whole situation of how we treat each other, and basically nobody knows the answers. Everyone pretends they do, and everything's just a masquerade and shit. And we should get rid of that. We should learn to get more honest, kind of unmask ourselves and let each other see who we really are and get a better sense of the bigger picture of our existence. We would rather our worries stay underground because what we're looking for will not be in the lost and found. And that's an interesting point because in truth, a lot of us, at least how I'm interpreting this, a lot of us are really willing to hide how we feel because it's not, I guess because what we're trying to find in life isn't that easy to get. The satisfactions or the changes we're looking for aren't just going to be some quick, oh shit, we forgot it over there in the lost and found. It's going to be like a real effort to create that change. So I guess it's easier to not care. That's what I took from it. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought this was a pretty song. I thought it was another short, sweet little tune that came in, and it was nice on this project. So I gave it a 4.35 on 5. Let's move on to the next track, which is called When You Hear It, another poem. So this one has Evita saying love, love, love with snappings and shit there. I think Dr. Cole does backing vocals with her. And it's just another short little poem on this project. Well, it says a short little poem because it's like the poem short. The track's a minute 25. There's a little bit of that love snappy bit at the end too. And I like her poem, like silent symphonies that rush through every single artery. This song is not boastful nor loud, but as hopeful as the clouds spotted in a drought. Yet you feel this cacophony from the pit of your stomach to every extremity, the sweetest bitterness that won't let up. So it's fascinating, right? Because she's describing love, right? And that kind of craziness. It feels like this like escape, but it also gives you this anxious nervousness to it. It's a whole bunch of emotions thrown together into this juxtaposition. It really is a melody felt from within and heard from all around. To me, it really is that. It's this profound ethereal force that's universal and everybody understands it. I don't know. I like it when I just like the overall tone of her words, you know? When you hear love, you're going to know it. And everybody just wants love. I can't stand the Beatles song, All You Need Is Love. So that Beatles, they say all we need is love line, that's fine. I just find it to be corny because the Beatles... So here's my quick thoughts on the Beatles. The Beatles, All You Need Is Love is the equivalent of Justin Bieber. Honestly, it's just as trash in terms of its practical value. The Beatles are an overrated band from a lyrical content point of view. You need a lot more than love. We just do. It is a false messaging. It tells people something that's not necessarily true. Love is something we all need, but we need more than love in our lives. I'm just saying that, and so I suppose it's a personal pet peeve of mine when I hear that. Like, I think that song is trash, and I think a lot of the Beatles' ethos are trash. They're fine, but I don't think they're profound scholars. I think they wrote a bunch of pop music, got some mad bank on it, and then went down as legends. It'll be like if later on we proceed to call Justin Bieber like literally the fucking Leonard Cohen of our era because Baby sold a bunch of records and shit. Like, that's how it feels to me. Anyway, again, tangential. I'm a little tired, so I suppose I'm going off on the distance. It was very pretty. It was very beautiful. It is really, again, a little bit not my cup of tea on this project, but of the poem skates, it's my favorite one because it actually felt like a complete track. It felt like a nice experience. It just also was a little bit more like that R&B track in terms of my emotional connection to it. It's beautiful, and I would show it to girls to try to impress them, but it's not my favorite song. So I gave it a 4.25, but I do agree with her description of love, if that makes sense. So now that we've talked about love a whole bunch, the next track's called Fall in Love. I think this is one of my favorite ones too. It's got a nice, cool beat, real up stuff. I like the way that Fall in Love fades into the beat and just kind of feels right with it. It's got kind of an upbeat, get up and go kind of energy to it, and you can even feel it in the way they rap, like the way Dr. Cole starts us off with that. What's that? That nonsense in the conscience of another love trap. Yeah, I know I fucked up the flow, but there's that energy in the way he kind of rolls in that particular flow. I'm a bit of a sucker for it. Can't help when I love it, and it's just got like a good sound to it. Like, the sound of this track is just stellar. If I were to, like, again, say standouts that you should really pay attention to if you don't really want to bump the whole thing, I would throw this one on. Although, given the length of this review, you'd probably watch the album, listen to the whole album twice, and the time it's going to take me to talk about the whole shit. So, yeah, you probably heard this in full. Anyway, what's that? The nonsense of your conscience and another love trap and obsession with your common sense provocation of a sort of really ugly hard smack and a blessing dissimulated in the form of a lesson. A girl that never calls back. Fall in love, please don't. And I don't know. I guess this is a fear of falling in love we're getting from him on this sense. The nonsense of your conscience, I guess that's like your conscience is afraid of love when you get to that moment of a new person and you consider the painful things in your past and all that other shit, and you think about it like, oh great, it's not something I want to do again. And then I like how they flow it, and he goes, please don't, an arrow but no aim or destination, and imagine kind of takes over. Just a simple problem with a hard solution in the midst of hesitation. First look too vague to even know what lies there waiting. Just don't. And then you hear the fall in love, and then they both kind of take on the next verse. Who's that? It's your conscience telling you to bring love to an honest point. No rules or conditions. It's a new and approved, bound to disappoint. Now wake up. It's the only way to save us. You can't make me. Give it all to you from the mind to the heart. Don't want to fall for you. Please go. You think I'm yours? You never told the truth. So they're going back and forth in that verse, and you're getting the sense that somebody wants them to love it, and they're just kind of feeling, I guess, distrustful. This person may have used them. They're just trying to like fight back, and I feel like it's an internal battle with their conscience about whether or not they're allowed to fall in love again. And I thought that was cool. And then you have Evita on the chorus going, I said I should be cut with where I put my heart, because things can build up just as fast as they fall apart. But I know I'm lighting a fuse about to spark, but I just don't know where to start. And I like that because it's like, no, I don't want to fall in love because it's been painful and awful in the past. But oh shit, now I'm in love. What the fuck am I going to do? I can't stop it. And I think that's what's really interesting. Evita starts off the next verse, cautious and so careful, trying hard to not be so fearful because I learn from mistakes, have faith in the risk I take. Every tear is just a drop in the lake, and the ways I make bring me to the gates, and from yourself, there's no mistake. So I feel like now we've taken it and changed it a little bit. We're being smart. We're not necessarily rushing headforth into love. We're just understanding that love is happening, so we're going to roll with it. Dr. Cole goes, honest and aware of how hard it can be to be faithful when you suffer heartbreak and hardly can tolerate thoughts that can suffocate love that is commonplace, costly, and complicated, yet constantly contemplating other options making me fall in love. And I guess it's like, even though you think about all the bad shit, I just feel like you're still kind of led into it, and it's hard, but it's almost like it's worth doing. I don't know. Or why does it have to get worse when I try my best? Want it to work so bad, need to mind my step. Lost to my own soul, but I know if I go, I will grow. Realize all the time I spent trying to be what I wasn't. Didn't see what was coming, and my feelings don't function. I don't mean to. Or maybe I guess they're just not having luck with love. Maybe this whole song is just like, fuck it, I'm falling in love and I'm getting hurt. I don't know. I may have misinterpreted parts of it. That's fine. But what I love is the complicated nature of love is put forth in a very honest way. It is both something that is wonderful and amazing and something that drives you fucking nuts and something that will really hurt you when it goes bad or when you put your faith in it, and it is something to be cautious about. And I think it's an interesting thing where even after looking at love and positivity and the way you're supposed to live, we get to this track where it's like, love is a lot harder than I thought it would be. And I like that. I like the humanity in that. Just like, you could really trust these guys. Anyway, thank you, Erwin Valaza, for the great guitar, and Zachary Six, I don't know how to say that, sorry, for the trumpet work. Anyway, it's a good song. I give it a 4.5. I think it's really cool. Anyway, let's move on to another poem on this project called Letting Go. This one is really short. It's only 39 seconds. It's back to the a cappella reverb effect, which is that it's just Imagine this time. So it's like each of them got their own little poem. It's sweet though. Pain provided pleasure to the reason of letting go. That's interesting. So basically, if you think about it, if you're holding on to something and it creates pain, it gives you pleasure to then let go. So pain, it gives you pleasure to actually let go and move on. Letting go was just a matter of time. Time was killed to provide pleasure to pain. Pain was wasted time looking for pleasure. Pleasure was playing hide and seek with the idea of letting go. When would pain let go? Time had no idea. So I really like this because he's playing on those words and he's reusing them, but he's effectively saying that when you finally let go, you'll find the pleasure and the pain, and it's a balance of whether you want to give into the pain and the pleasure. And it's really sweet and it's really interesting, where time is really the only variable that moves on, while the other two things are kind of in tandem. And then we throw in reason. And now the idea of pleasure was painful because time didn't come, and letting go wasn't a good reason, so reason left more time for pain to go and provided new ideas for pleasure. So pleasure finally took the time to kill the pain and found a reason to let go. It almost reminds me of a Facebook meme where you would like read it forwards and backwards in the way that it's worded, but I really like the idea of just letting go, moving on, and almost forgiving yourself so that you're not constantly in pain. It's really beautiful. Anyway, it's alright. I get this at 4.25. It's a pretty good poem. Let's move on to a really spacey song called Space Cake. This one is like super jazzy, which definitely makes it a little less my cup of tea, but also makes me respect their musicality a little bit more. Um, as I say that, I do realize I like this song a lot. So it's like musically, it's vibey. Like if you're a little bit, floaty, you're just kind of sitting there. You can ride the wave of this track. It's got this beautiful saxophony bit by Esther Boucher, which I think really, really sells this song because it's got some vocal. It's not a lot going on in terms of the words. It's one of the least vocalized tracks. Considering it's 3.5 minutes, it's impressive even. Everybody says 2 lines, kind of sings it out a little bit. And then it just flows into that instrumental, and it's almost like a mood piece to like. And if you think about the placement on this album, there is a bit of a story going on. All right, I feel like you look at Runaway, how to cope with your shit, era. We should make mistakes, move on, stop, look, listen. When you realize mistakes, take a sense of your surroundings and understand where you're at with shit. What's up? Maybe understand like moving on a little bit and kind of looking at like positive relationships and connecting with people. Then you have, we flow on from there as we kind of take a look at the world and the motivating forces that are going on to it before we transition into love, which is basically what we had learned was supposed to be the main force of it. At a point where love hurts, we learn to let go, and now we're here at Space Cake. You're breaking a score, you're waging a war, you're playing the game, you're taking it all, escaping it all, breaking the law, taken for granted, you're breaking her heart, too late to ignore, displacing your soul to shape of a whole, can't relate the story that takes the cake, your name on the wall, to save it for later, you're blamed for it all. Now, each of these lines, Evita does the first 2, then Imagine, then Dr. Cole, then Evita, then Imagine, and they keep repeating it back and forth like that. And it just kind of feels like a lot of just living life, right? I feel like they could be talking about a person, or whether it be a dark person on the nefarious side or even like a righteous person trying to escape social norms. I feel like it applies on both ends of it, and it's really nice. So you're just trying to get out there and figure out your way, and it just, as you make your moves, there's consequences to it. You thought it was real, you're lost in your feelings, you never expect what your heart could reveal. As you go through the journey of your life and you start to reflect, it's like you start to understand more. I almost feel like this song is taking a look at like the whole album as a whole, everything we've heard so far, and summarizing it into this particular track. Dr. Cole gets the most bars in a row over here as he goes, so cherish your meal, deliciously real, delectable delicacies are concealed. That's funny, that's good, because delicacy is related to like deliciously, that's food bars. Cherish your meal, appreciate what you have. Anyway, in everyday moments you let yourself steal, emotions are sold but your soul is sincere. So what he's actually saying there is regardless of the life and the complications, when you do your soul searching and you learn that appreciation, you'll be able to find that there are some tasty ass fried chicken pieces flowing around the dismal reality of your bread and water existence if you're willing to look for that fried chicken. I happen to like fried chicken. And I think that it's like if you learn to cherish the moments and to see the beauty of a blue jay, you'll find that life is just a little bit different. Your spirit is growing like roses in spring. Don't do what you're told, just do what you feel. Grow like a tree, its branches and leaves. Roots are your ancestors moving with ease. The wind and the breeze, the mountains and peak, the source of it all, who knows what it means. And I feel like what this really leaves us to is when you learn how to let your intuition and your inner voice, I guess, guide you, and you understand your vision and you start on your journey, it's like you almost rebirth yourself into something greater. Like I just read The Pilgrimage by Paulo Coelho, and I feel like listening to this song reminds me a little bit of going on a spiritual pilgrimage and then redefining your soul, letting go of the past and ending up embracing your purpose and what you're meant to do. Then after the beautiful saxophone shit you hear, there are some things we just can't talk about, repeated a whole bunch. Then there are some things that we just cannot talk about. I don't know if I should open or shut my mouth. If I tell you what's on my mind, would you stick around? And that's interesting too, because we have to consider that we already understand the vulnerability of in the past putting our heart and our trust into something that was not right. So, or not, when I say not right, I mean somebody that betrayed us, so just left with these emotions and we can't actually talk to anybody. It's just such an interesting idea. Anyway, I thought this was a beautiful, airy song. I felt it was smooth like butter, not margarine, simply butter. If you know what that means, you know. Anyway, I really did like it. 4.5 on 5. let's move on to something that both I and the captains of imagination do, and that's make music. Alright, so this one is more on that smooth, old school feel to it. I'm definitely feeling like at this part of the album, we've got a good sense for what the sound is going to be. I would argue that a lot of the jargon that we got to start off in that paragraph is pretty apt. It really does tap into a lot of the different, let's say, artsy genres they're playing towards. I would call it really music, instrument, like driven kind of sounding hip hop. I really like it. It reminds me a lot of like if I didn't know where these guys were from, I would have guessed New York. That's what I was left with. Like it sounds like they really love New York hip hop. It starts out with a little intro on this one. The beginning of the end and the end of the beginning has begun. Okay, I lines like that sometimes feel like they're a little over the top, but at the same time, I could see myself writing some shit like that and thinking it's mad profound, and then thinking I'm over the top a while later. So I'm not hating. It's just a little over the top. It's cool. A sad finale played off key on a broken down saloon piano in the outskirts of a forgotten ghost town. I'd rather not bear witness to such blasphemy. So I feel like you're left with the idea of something broken or some half-finished idea or something that just doesn't get all in, and instead of that, fuck that, we're not going to play that half-finished game of mediocrity, we're going to go all in. So he comes up, yo, what's up? And this, imagine it's like this, yo, one time, yo. I love that. That was great, man. I just respect it. Maybe I'm going to say one time on a record. I've never done that before. Maybe I should really tap into the old school roots. Looking for a thought like, what if I write my best shit tonight, fight for everything I believe in, but in the end, what do I really believe in? Smart questions, but no answers, so I make this art a lesson, hard deceptions, but I gotta start accepting. So it's like he's trying to come up with the best shit he can write, and he's trying to push it, he's trying to question what he believes, and he's trying to represent himself, but also understanding the humility of not having answers, so using his art as this platform. And then it's like as he's trying to bring his verse somewhere, thinking can be other ways that lead to different places. I think I've been here too long and I'm switching stages down. Like a verse, I'm gonna need a structure, but life is all around the place, so I'm feeling like I'm stuck here, so contradictory. All I know is that I'm breathing. All the rest of my friend belongs to mystery. So in a sense, he's looking for structure in his life. He's trying to figure it out. He's trying to find the answers, but at the end of the day, life really is this journey. And at the end of the day, when he's pushing through, music is this shit that he finds to be the greatest that gets him through the day, and it's just wonderful. It's a beautiful thing to fucking die for. So if the pursuit of your life is to create music and shit, that's a wonderful life if you ask me. You got the chorus. Now, you can't tell me what to do, can't change my point of view. This is Imagine and Evita. It's all that I've been through. The music is like glue sticking to all my moves. I just know what to do. Well, I'm right here with you, make music. So it's like, at the end of the day, with all the shit we've been listening to, with all the confusion in life, they're left with the constant that is to basically make music and to push through it. Dr. Cole does that thing he does where he plays and builds around a core idea. In this case, drinking is the idea. So I'm wasted, but no drink. So I guess wasted in terms of life and the desolation, but he's not actually consuming any alcohol. Drowning, nor any drop to drink. So he's drowning, but there's no water, there's nothing around him. So he's playing up on that idea of there being these consequences of water, like of drinking too much or of drowning, but not having it there. Breaking, but not any drink to drop. So he's breaking like as if he were breaking a glass, but there's no drink. So all of this shit's happening, but he's not having the typical consequence. Glass shatters around me, but no drink. Again, at this point, I was a little bit like, all right, fair enough. It's well done. I'm not trying to hate on it, but I don't know. I felt it was like one line way too many, but at the same time, it's still really cool because I haven't heard anybody else rhyme like this, and I still think it's extremely well done in terms of bringing through the emotion of it. Part of it too is secretly, I stopped doing these really long album reviews for a little bit of a reason, and we started splitting it up into two parts, and I'm secretly regretting not doing that on this review, but we are so close to the end, and I'm personally a little drained, so maybe my attitude is not as positive and as motivational as it should be, because it is good bars. I just thought when I first heard it, it stood out. it sounds like Dr. Cole is in a dad joke phase of life. And I don't mean that as an insult. I'm in my 30s now. I'm all about that dad joke shit. So I like it. I'm waiting but not to tick. Hands raised but not any clock to tick to. I'm pacing like men's late, like not any tick to talk to. All this is good. He flows through like this for the rest of the verse, and I really enjoy it. I really feel like it's got this properly. Pervaded by poor paupers peddling passing protests. Can we just give him some props for excellent use of alliteration as he comes through it? Pain portrayed in painstaking portraits, pervaded by poor paupers peddling passing protests. See sex as sinful by saintly supervisors successfully severing senses from seemingly sweet sentiments. Let's really give him his credit for his alliteration. And he's really just pushing through the same notion as the world is kind of fucked, and he's trying to get through it. My analysis brain is fading on me, but that's okay. This is still pretty proper. It still encompasses the same energy as what we've been getting for it. And I really enjoy it. I feel like the chorus is nice. I feel like everything about this track is proper. This one showcases some dope rapping. Absolutely. The track just feels proper. I don't have a lot more to say about it. I really enjoyed it. We've got another trumpet solo by Zachary Seg, the guy's name I can't say on it, which is pretty dope. All things considered, this one is a 4.35, and I love the idea of just flowing through music, of using music as a way to make sense of the questions and the conflicts and the different emotional states of their worlds, because that's what I do with my music in my life and my world. So I feel like while maybe we are not the same people and maybe even continentally different ethos, I love the fact that being so far away in the world, these guys, these cats over here and myself can get to a point where it's like we approach life in such a similar way. When I heard this album, I was like, I want to hang out with these folks. I want to just sit there and chit-chat and discuss life and debate philosophies and stuff. Anyway, that was what I thought. 3 more tracks, one big one. We have actually the longest song on this album coming up at just under 5 minutes as we go. That was my underwater noises. So this one has got like a lot of open musical parts where you can really let the beat breathe. Like it takes a little chunk before the song even starts up. It creates an ambiance. It's slower. It's smoother. It's really well made. Not in my favorite side of the sounds of this album, but as again, not to take away from the quality of the project or the song. Sorry, it's just a little out there. Evita starts us off singing beautifully. Tell me that it's so absurd that we all have it in this world. It's just a kind word. Tell me that it makes no sense that when I use up all my strength, it's all I have left. Tell me that it's so absurd what we all have left in this world. It's just a kind word. Tell me that it makes anyway. She repeats that. I don't know why I read it twice, but it's when I have left and I have bled. I have all that needs to be said. Been left for dead. Heart heavy as lead, but in the end, I still hold up my heart. Hold up my head. So basically, it's fucked up that after everything, we kind of left so drained and empty and almost used feeling. But at the end of the day, even though we're left for dead and feeling all fucking broken and whatnot, all we have left is the opportunity to get up and keep grinding. Because, like, what else is there in life? We can either become the broken plebs of society or we can fight. We can do what we got to do and take pride in who we are. And I love that that's what they seem to represent. Dr. Cole does the next verse. Childish dreams run like streams, teens destined to be kings and queens, partners in crime. I falsely thought we'd end up as partners in life. So I guess as you're young and you look at the world and you make mistakes and you trust people and you think things and then shit doesn't end up the way that you are gonna, how you anticipated when you were young, as you fall apart and shit. Castle walls painted as gray, colorful memories fading away, dissolve like sand monuments or angel wings drawn on the front lawns, frost that were numb to you down the last time I saw you, the passion and fire was gone from your eyes. Etc. It kind of gets the sense that as time's gone on, it's like it almost reminds me of people that I wanted to make music with or I wanted to grind with when I was younger, and now I'm sitting here still doing my thing, but so many of my peers have just given up and floated on into life, and they're just not there anymore. Like, and you can see it in their eyes. Where like, I still believe I'm gonna make it to the day I die, but a lot of people just don't come up with that. And then I feel like Imagine really follows up on that. Like, your kingdom is stolen, wondering why did they take it away, or did you lose it yourself? Unfaithful and truthful you fell. And so it flows through with this. And I don't want to waste too much time on going through every line, but from a principle perspective, it's like I like how each verse kind of presents it. Like the first verse presents like losing it, then the second verse is like, yo, remember when we both had the same passion in it? It's kind of sad that I still had that passion and now it's gone. And then Imagine follows it up by going, yo, but what happened to it? And really questioning it, like, did you let it go? Did it take it from you? Why didn't you touch into it? You know, the closer you get from things that you lost, the harder it is to let go. And time can't film in the tears that you dropped hot enough to melt gold. So it's like, I don't know, if you let things disappear and fade away into oblivion, you're never really going to get anything that you set out to do. You can't just let it all disappear, etc. I don't know. I feel like I blundered that a little bit, but the sentiment is questioning how you could let that happen to yourself, and I guess challenging you to go and rectify the situation. It's a really nice song. It's definitely not one of the ones I would personally go back to, getting on the slower, smoother end, but it's still beautiful, and I can still see how a lot of this audience watching this channel would dig it. So 4.25 on 5. There are 2 more tracks on this. One of them is a poem, so we're going to move on to the next poem on the album, which is called My Friend the Moon poem. So this is a poem by Quentin Burns Sutton. I'm not even sure who's reading the poem. Maybe it's Quentin. I am not that thrilled with listening to this. It's fine. It is just the guy reading it over nothing. Again, the empty poem. It starts off, my friend the moon has appeared without a sound, pregnant in the eastern sky, waiting to help me on my way. The night is blue, infused with yellow rays. Turn off my headlamp, eyes adjusting to the softer light. The moon has flooded the circus, snow and ice, ridges are cut, etc. And I'm just like, okay, so the moon's out, and he's describing the benefit of the moon and how the moon plays a role into it, and etc. Cutting along again after some descriptive shit. I reflect on man's arrogance, but I'm soothed in its rays, knowing that moonlight comes from the sun. It treads the Milky Way, with all planets spinning through the universe. Our pretentious ways are as short-lived as a shooting star. Meanwhile, the night's blueness is blended seamlessly into light of day, and for a moment, the sky belongs to neither night or day. As my friend the moon fades, translucent into the western sky, as if to say I'm only a passerby. And I kind of like the idea of looking at the moon and its fleeting existence within the day, how it comes and goes, and how everything's just so big and out there. And then if you really think about it, man is so small and inconsequential and kind of arrogant in how we attribute real importance to ourselves and the works and shit and etc. And so it's kind of like fitting to this project. I kind of feel like it's an inspirational piece for this project. I mean, it's fine. I get it. Don't be arrogant. Understand the world. Maybe be like a little reflective of the temporary nature of our existence, impact, and reality, and how small we really are. So I guess that's fine. I gave it a 4. It was not my favorite. Let's talk about When the Moon, the last track on the album. So this is a cool song. It's back on that like pensive, lyrical tone. Definitely back on that spacey, more hip-hop beat shit. I like it. I don't know that I'm left with like a whole lot of new to say at this point. I mean, it's a cool track. I like how Imagine starts it off with Hello Planet, organic source of life. The story is only yours to write. Go back as far as you can remember. Memories crossing, truth will surrender. That's an interesting point. So it's almost like looking at the planet and like the bigger picture of life and saying at the end of the day, as long as we're here trying to write our stories, it's more like you, the planet, the bigger essence, is the real history maker of things. Abstract thoughts of distant lands, where flowers grow on sinking sands, instant glance at eternity in the lonely brain of a thinking man. So it's like, I guess, just kind of reflecting on what we had just heard in the last track, how much bigger the world is, how much more complicated it really is from our small brains can really process and understand. I don't know. It's all right in terms of that. I feel like I like how he ends the verse with mystery sings a song that we can all hear if we let our fears sing along. That just has like this point of like maybe we're all kind of in this together and we can all kind of connect together and be a little more honest about what we're going through and recognize that we really just kind of fear the same things and go through the same kind of experiences, which I thought was really cool. Dr. Cole does the next part. Hello galaxy rotating space and time. Across eternity with shape divine, string dimensions unwound in theory, unbound in the multiverse they collide. And I kind of like that, looking at the giantness of the universe. I like the concept of a multiverse, which has multiple universes strung together, having different interactions within each other. It's also very sci-fi like, which I really appreciate. I don't know. I'm really like running out of energy in terms of saying shit. I really appreciate the love of the universe in this, and kind of looking at how big everything is. I guess it's like when you look at the moon and you really just think about how huge the whole world is, how complicated all these systems are, how almost like God exists within all of this shit, and really we're all just these little people, and maybe underneath this we can kind of come together. I really like it. I thought it was super beautiful. Sorry if you feel like this is a lackluster end of this, but well, it is. So it's a 4.35 on 5, airy beat, pretty great track to close out this album, all things considered. So I just wanted to say thank y'all for being here and watching this. I gave the album a 4.33 on 5. I think it's a really well-made project. It taps into real instrumentation. It makes me want to go to Europe, man. It makes me want to go hang out with them. It makes me want to go see what it's like out there, because I feel like there's such an adherence to the rules of music and the understanding and the deeper sense of culture in their delivery that's really respectable. From a content perspective, their philosophical exploration of humility, growth, and stuff is just really divine, and I think they really put a blueprint about how to almost think a little bit more about the world. And I don't know if this is like an entry-level album. I feel like this is more an album for people who are already on that wavelength to connect to, rather than being a how to get there kind of album. I'll be honest with you. But I feel like if you totally are, if you already started that journey, this album will help you move farther along on that journey. And I love the consistency of the message. I love the fact that at the end of this situation, I'm left just wanting to know them more than ever. Like, you really feel who they are without really getting into personals, but the essence of what they believe in is conveyed throughout this project. And I think opus is a really good word for it. So good job jargon off their website. Anyway, thank y'all for watching. I appreciate you being here with me. Subscribe to the channel if you like what we do. Like the video if you dug it. Comment, and we can have a little chit chat down there. Special thanks to the patrons: Ismail Gadamsi, Chris Prado, Jonathan Barnes, E.G. Black Hurricane, Linda, Williams, Scribble, and Carl. They're dope. They support what we do. They're going to help us elevate. If you want to support the channel, you can do it like that. And you can get us to review whatever the fuck you want. I make music myself. I got a track coming out. It came out last week, May 13th. I got another one coming out June 24th, so check the links if you like the one that's out. You can use the DistroKid Link to follow and pre-save for the new one. Helps me out. Follow me on Spotify, all that good shit. Anyway, I've been doing this for a couple hours now, so live long and prosper.